Afternoon, gang. Happy lunch hour. All right, so it's still Friday and we still got stuff going on, but I want to talk about your money and the safety of it. Kind of important. So let me ask you this. If you were driving your car and broke down on the side of the road, would you call Bill Gates to have him fix your car? Probably not. How about if you wanted to build a new house? Would you say, hey, Jeff Bezos, you want to come over and be my general contractor? Probably not. Okay. They need to stick in their own lane, things that they know. You want somebody to build a software? You might want to call Bill Gates. You want to set up a internet store? You might want to call Jeff Bezos. I wouldn't say run a newspaper. The last person I would probably ever want to ask for financial advice would be Martha Stewart, closely followed by Janet Yellen. And I will get into that in a second. So we all know what is going on with the banking industry, the commercial real estate market, that it is falling apart. And of course, what you need to do is listen to the stupidest among us who have money to figure out where the disaster is coming so you can plan accordingly. Now, when it comes to financial advice, the absolute last person in the world I would ever listen to is Martha Stewart. All right, come on. This is the woman who tried a job as a stockbroker at Merrill Lynch back in the 70s or whatever, failed miserably, and then wound up spending time in jail for insider trading. Not exactly somebody that I want to take financial advice from. So Martha Stewart is out screaming about commercial real estate and that people have to go back to work and remote work isn't good. I mean, her quote, "You can't possibly get everything done working 3 days in a week in the office and 2 days remotely. Look at the success of France with their stupid, off for August, blah, 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 blah." The Europeans take a month off for summer. Okay. I said this probably 25 years ago, that what was the point of going to the office? Okay, and this is back when I was a broker. Okay. I've got a phone. I've got a computer. What do I need to put a suit and tie on and come sit in an office all day long so I can just drive home, right? No question. Even the last 10 years of my career as a recruiter, it was all done remotely. What did I need? A phone and a computer. Right in front of me right now, I have a phone and a computer. I can pretty much do anything that I need to do, whether it's stock market, whether it's YouTube, whether it's recruiting, whatever, from the comfort of my own home. And I don't need to fight traffic, pay for gasoline, put wear and tear on my car, buy clothes to go to work, okay, whatever would be, and God help, have to drive into one of these shithole liberal cities and put my own life in danger walking from the parking lot to the office, okay, because, it was great that the liberals have run their cities into the ground. This is the deal. So what does that leave? And this is where I'm putting this together. The commercial real estate industry, if you will, is completely falling apart. All right, I've talked about it before. All right, the commercial real estate industry is about a $21 trillion market. Office buildings, okay? Think of any city, think of the suburbs, whatever, in these huge office buildings. Most of them aren't owned by the company whose name is on the side of it. They're renting out space, okay? Who owns those buildings? Well, 61% of them are owned by the banks that you and I have our paychecks deposited to, where we write our checks out, our debit cards, or whatever it is. The expectation right now, okay, is that the commercial real estate market will collapse somewhere between 20 and 50%. I told you a few weeks ago, I just used Chicago as an example, where a third of the office space in Chicago right now is vacant. That means the banks aren't collecting any rent on the office space. That means they are holding the banks or the properties empty. Okay, it's an illiquid asset that they aren't making any money on. Mind you, it's still costing them because they still have to pay property tax, that thing we all love. Okay. Property tax on skyscrapers is a lot more than what it is on your house. Okay. They still have to pay maintenance. They still have to keep the place warm or cool. Water's still got to be running. So there's a lot of bills that come in and they're collecting no revenue. So what happens? These banks are struggling. Now, it's not going to hurt anybody's feelings that BlackRock, Blackstone, Brookfield Corporation, any of these big real estate investment trusts own some of these buildings too, and they're struggling as well. But how does this affect you? Okay, this is the scary part. If these banks can't pay the bills, okay, imagine, let's just foreclosing on the Sears Tower, foreclosing on, I don't know, the Empire State Building or something. Imagine that. What's going to happen to the little guy? The banks are not going to concern themselves at all with your little $3,000 savings account or the $5,000 you have in CDs or whatever it is. They're concerned about the big money. They've got no problem taking your little money to pay off the debt or the bills that they have on the big money. All right. This is it. We talk about bail-ins all the time. All right. So this is where Janet Yellen comes into play. And Janet Yellen is talking about how this could trickle down into the retail banking industry, you and me, okay, and what could happen to all of us, all right? Like I said, 61% of the commercial debt is owned by banks. What happens when that doesn't get paid anymore and the banks need money, whatever it would be, either that they've loaned to an investor or that they own outright, okay? Think about any of these big buildings, any of the small strip malls or anything that have a whole bunch of businesses in them. Drive around and see how much of those are empty. Retail needs brick and mortar, okay? The service industry, for the most part, does not. Your financial people, your lawyers, your accountants, recruiters, pick any sort of business that primarily what they are doing is phone and computer. They don't need office space. That crushes the banks. What Yellen has come out and said is we're going to see a lot of consolidation amongst the smaller banks. Think about that. Okay, what have we talked about before? Let's talk how this consolidation rings a bell. Okay, Silicon Valley Bank, Signature Bank, okay, there's just a couple of the bigger small banks. How well did those go through consolidation? The government had to bail them out, right? They had to make Oprah whole. They had to make Prince Harry and his witch whole. That was what they had to do because that was more than the FDIC was going to cover. Do you honestly think if you had an account at, First National Bank of Dubuque, Iowa, they're going to make you whole? No, you're not a Democrat donor. Okay, think about this. You work for the oil employee, or you bank with the Oil Employees Credit Union of Lubbock? Yeah, sure. The liberals in Washington are really concerned about making those people whole. Okay. Oh my God, hey, if the Oil Employees Bank went under, cool. We don't want oil anyway. The little banks will get swallowed by the big banks. This goes into what we've talked about many times about being 6 banks left. I've talked about that, listed those 6 banks to you guys a few times. You got to read between the lines. Why is Martha Stewart so worried about this? My guess, she probably has a lot of her investment money that wasn't gotten by insider trading tied up in REITs, real estate investment trusts. She wants people to go back. She's afraid that she's going to lose her ass because people aren't going to work in the office. Okay? Listen to the stupid people who are talking somewhere out of their lane. They do not have your best interest in mind at all. None of ours, okay? The people who have your best interest in mind are the people that are walking in the same shoes you do. The people that get up, go to work, do their job, get their paycheck on Friday, pay their bills, feed the kids, go fishing on Saturday, do whatever, pay a mortgage. That's the people you want to listen to. The people that are sitting there throwing $100 bills in the fireplace to start it, those aren't the people that you want to listen to, ever, okay? You know, hopefully you're not criminally indicted for the 11th time or whatever it is for crimes that never happened, and you don't need lawyers to do that. Sure, okay. But stop looking at these banks. Look seriously. I know we've talked about this before, and a lot of you guys have taken action, and I thank God for that. But look at these banks. Many of you emailed me after a video a couple of weeks ago that you went in the bank and asked them questions. You checked the ratings of your bank. Can't tell you how many of you guys have told me stories about going into the bank and trying to take money out. What are you going to do with this? None of your flipping business, okay? One of you had a great answer when the teller asked, what are you going to do with the money? And the answer was, I got to pay taxes. That was a good dig to the idea. Let her go back to his boss and say, yeah, my taxes went up. I've got to go pay taxes. Oh, okay. You know, tangible assets, guys, okay? Land, gold and silver, beans and bullets, whatever it would be. Yeah, I know you got to have money to pay property tax or whatever would be, you know, at where we are still in the world, you have to have cash to go to the grocery store or the hardware store or the gas station or whatever. I totally get that. You're not walking into Kroger and saying, here's 2 silver coins. I want to pay for my $50 worth of groceries. I get it. Okay. How do we stop this? We starve the beast. Okay. If the banks don't have any money to play with, then they can't manipulate all this crap. If we as the country start taking our money out of the banks, I think we'd all pretty much agree most of the country doesn't trust the banks. We know they are there to just screw us. But if we start taking our money out of the banks and give them less to play with, what are they going to do? We should go back to, if we want to save this country, a cash society. That's the way it needs to be, okay? Everybody's too addicted to their credit cards. We know that. We see that every month. And credit card usage has gone to another all-time high. Why? Because people can't afford what's out there. Why can't they afford it? Because we have that small teeny percent of the stupid people like Martha Stewart and Janet Yellen, we can add Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos into it and everything, who have no concept of what it is to, how are we going to put groceries on the dinner table this week, honey? How are we going to pay the electric bill? You know, when there's inflation has caused me to have too much month left at the end of my paycheck. They don't understand what we are doing. We need to be able to starve them out. We need to cut off their cash flow. The way we do that is by getting ourselves out of their system, because they control it, they manipulate it, the media helps promote it. I mean, I told you what Janet Yellen just said. This was on MSNBC or CNBC or something like that with her quote CNBC. You know, that people need to go back to work. No, they don't. It's actually more cost beneficial for me to work from home than it is to work from an office. And I explained this to my bosses and how I wound up working from home for 10 years. You want me to spend an hour in traffic going to work, an hour in traffic coming home from work? What if I was able to actually work those 2 hours a day, an extra 10 hours a week, rather than driving? I don't lose any time and you get more production. And companies go, really? That's actually a good idea. Then I'm like, yeah, imagine if you don't have to pay the rent on my office space. Imagine if you're not paying my phone bill. Imagine if you don't have to pay for a computer, for the electric. They're like, damn, yeah, go ahead, work from home. That was with a couple of big companies too that I explained that to them. And they're like, that makes sense. If you're willing to do that, we're all for it. I'm going, cool. Get up in the morning, make my cup of coffee, sit in a t-shirt, a pair of shorts, and that's how I'm working all day. Why? Because all I was doing was talking on the phone and using a computer, emailing. The workplace, at least for the office workers, is a dying industry, guys. Investing in commercial real estate is a dying industry. How does that flip around to everything else? When the commercial industry can't do it, the bank's got to make money somewhere. So what does that do to interest rates? Get ready. We ain't anywhere close to the top. You think, oh my God, mortgage rates are at 7%? Talk to anybody who bought a house in the late 70s and ask them what their mortgage rate is. That's where we're heading. Get ready for double-digit mortgage rates. Get ready for double-digit interest rates on anything. Oh, and while you're at it, what will that do? Get ready for double-digit inflation rates. That's the economics that we're in. That's what the people that don't know what they're doing, which is the entire Biden administration, okay, again, somebody please tell me how much experience Pete Buttigieg has in the transportation industry, right? Okay, the high quality people that they're hiring, Janet Yellen, or any of them. Somebody please tell me how great a communicator is the White House press secretary is, right? Okay, they're not qualified, but they check a box. Well, I'm going to check a box too, and it's on a little withdrawal slip, and it says, how much would you like to withdraw? And my answer is all of it. Pinball out.